Hey guys, Lucas Sacco here. Today we have a Canine Crystron kind of like deck overview, talking about the deck altogether. I want to talk about some of the cool things with this deck because I personally think this is one of the best decks of the format. And of all of the decks that have shown up over the format, kind of like older decks that have been around, I think that this is one of the most favored decks to win YCS Vancouver. Starting off here, this is a pretty standard list from what's been going around with a few changes to it. If you see here the way the deck is organized, you can see at the bottom, this is where all of our non-engine cards are. I am including Izuna in our non-engine here because it's just a hand trap, right? If you don't play against Yummy, it is a fantastic interruption on their turn. You can get up to 18 in this deck playing it like this. Technically 19 if you want to consider Izuna, or the Lupus a hand trap. And since we are playing Typhon, I think I would in most matchups consider it a hand trap because either it's going to cause them to do something different and make them kind of like either deteriorate their board or use one of their interactions at that point in time. So Lupus does its job. The other thing with Lupus is that you can just kind of summon it on their turn, and you don't have to like really use it. So when they try to remove the Lupus, if it's a targeting effect, you can chain the Lupus there to summon the Typhon, and then the Typhon is untargetable. And so you kind of have some like leeway if you're using Lupus that way, especially in a deck that plays like Zeus in it. It's like one thing I really like about the Vanquish Soul Canine deck and this deck is that if you use Lupus as a hand trap, and when they try to remove the Lupus, you turn it into a Typhon, then that means you got to start your turn off with either you can use like the Typhon aggressively, then you have a body that goes very well into SP, or you can just go battle phase, attack something, and turn it into a Zeus really well because you summoned it on their turn, and so you're no longer locked. So that's one thing I really like about Lupus. I think it has that really cool interaction with it. But let's just say 19, not engine, because we do play the Typhon for the Lupus in this because we have enough like room for it. The main things that we cut here, considering are like that are different from like the normal Christian list, is this Fern. This Fern is absolutely not a necessary card. It does help in a lot of situations, but it's definitely not mandatory in the deck. One thing that I like about it is that it does help you play through Fuwalos a lot better, but it's just not needed. Like, if you're getting Fuwalos, you're more than likely playing the game already anyways, and just because you can't get one additional surge to maybe put your Tristaros in rotation or do anything like that, you can still play the game very fluidly in most situations. The other thing that I like about cutting down on that is that there's only two cards in our deck here that are kind of like bricks or cards that we don't really want to draw. And one of them is Lupus, which we've already talked about pretty in depth. The other one is Crystron Cluster, which is not even the worst card to begin with because if you open Solfefnir, you can discard this and play the game like automatically. So this deck is fairly consistent and it has a lot less bad draws than you would assume by looking at it. With that, another thing that's different about this deck is that we're not playing the the quick play spell, the Canine Forced Release in this deck. And the main reason is just like if you do your full combo, the board is absolutely unbreakable. And so I don't think we need to be putting more things on top of it, especially like game one. I can definitely see you siding this card in the deck because you are trying to play around things like Dark Ruler. Your deck has a very front-loaded inboard. Just means that it's all on the field. It's all on your monsters. Your monsters are very big. If you get Dark Ruler, you're going to lose a very large amount of your disruptions. You'll still have the cluster pop, which is usually a pop 2, and then you'll also still have the Azuna. But with the Canine Force release, you also have one additional pop, and you have a hand rip with it. So 4 disruptions through a Dark Ruler is really, really good. Not to mention this deck does play like a good amount of hand traps, and post side, like your hand traps like Fuwalos and Pirelli are going to be adding like more disruptions onto your inboard that aren't front loaded most of the time. And so like you usually will be winning those games where you get Dark Forward anyways. That's why I think that it's okay to like take the force release out of your deck, but it is definitely an option to side deck it if you really think it's an important thing, if you think you're going to be getting Dark Forward a lot. But I don't think it's absolutely necessary for the deck, and so that leaves us with a very concise and like compact engine. Every card up in this top spot, everything above cluster is like an engine card that you don't mind drawing. Like one of the worst ones is Smyger. That's like one of the worst ones for you to draw. But the thing with Smyger is that it's a 1-card combo on its own. Normal summon at link 1, that's a full 1-card combo. The only like downside of Smyger and like why it's the worst one to draw is if you open like Jokul, Sulfador, and Smyger, it makes Smyger a little bit weird about putting in rotation because you have to like use your Solfefnir pitching the Smyger. But going second, it like gets really weird because you can't like get Smyger into the graveyard as efficiently because your Sulfador is probably not resolving going second. I will say this deck does play through pretty much every hand trap in the game. If you open Jokul plus Sulfador, I mean, you're playing through at least 3 hand traps to get to like a solid 2 to 3 disruptions. That's the main thing that I really, really like about this deck. Let's look over the non-gen real fast and see what non-gen we're really playing and why. This deck plays 6 chummies in it because while going second, if you can draw into your engine cards, then you are going to win the game. Your engine pushes through so much so well, and having more of it is going to very, very much help you going into those matchups. It also it's kind of used to like deteriorate their boards and make them smaller. I will say that the threat of Paradise Smasher is a lot less real than we were expecting in the TCG when the cards were like first getting introduced to us. Paradise Smasher doesn't really ever get used unless it's like a multiple hand trap situation. It's like you activate Fuwalos and Parelia, and they're kind of forced to try to go into it. And the main reason it's not getting used is because if you go for Paradise Smasher, there is a 9% chance that it does not do anything. And if you got like Parelia or Fuwalos into that situation, that's why you're going for it. Then, I mean, you're giving them 3 draws. You're going to be, or like a lot of the time it's like 3 draws, sometimes it's only 2, but you're going to be giving them a lot of draws. And if they have any answer for the Paradise Smasher, or like for some reason you fall into that 9% chance, then you were just like losing the game instantly because you gave them draws to effectively do nothing or skip your own turn, you know? And so that's one thing that I think is a little bit freeing up about the non-engine that we were playing before. A lot of the time we were tending to play things like Songs of the Dominator or Purge or Imperm, things that like weren't as super impactful. I still like Imperm because it's good on your turn as well, but things that like weren't super impactful just because they didn't trigger the Azuna or any of like the canine cards, like play more efficiently, play faster into the Paradise Smasher. And so I think that now that we've come to that understanding that Paradise Smasher isn't as real, we can sort of change our non-engine back to what we were doing before and use it like that. I am playing Ash in this deck and Droplet, even though those don't technically like fall into like the same sort of reasoning as the Molcharmies do. The reason I'm playing these is because one, Ash Blossom obviously stops Chummies, but it also stops all of like the turn 0 like interactions besides Femena. So like the Ash Blossom is going to stop Izuna, right? It's going to stop the Holy Sue they're going to drop on you. It's going to stop all of the Chummies. Like Ash Blossom is just a really good card when going first, and going second pairing it is really good. Droplet also kind of does the same thing. That's going to stop the Femena most of the time, or like whatever they summon off the Femena. So you're going to be dropletting their turn 0 plays. It's also like a really, really good board breaker, and it pairs well into your deck because you have cards that you don't mind sending at all. Looking at the extra deck here, you can see there's a couple things that are different in this list, and I wanted to talk about a few of them. One major thing is the number monsters that we are playing with Nash Knight. If you look here, we have number 101 Silent Honor Arc and number C101 Silent Honor Dark. Now, why are we playing these? It's not because they have a cool effect, even though this guy looks super cool as an ulti, and this guy also has an ulti, and he looks super cool. It's because they're aquas. You may be asking, like, hey, why does it matter if it's an aqua? Chaotic Elements. This is an effect that we really didn't think that we would be resolving as much as we are, but using Chaotic Elements aggressively into boards with the extra deck and how we've prepared the deck is super, super effective. The additional effect of Chaotic Elements is after you add, it says, then if you have 3 or more Pyro and or Aqua monsters in your graveyard, you can destroy 1 card on the field. And so this is an effect that a lot of people just like kind of glaze over because they just assume you won't have exactly that many Aquas. Parelia is an Aqua. Nash Knight is an Aqua. 101 Honor Arc is an Aqua. C101 Honor Arc is an Aqua. C101, by the way, you can technically summon this card. So if you are ever in like a weird game state and you have 3 5s, you can just turn them all into Silent Honor Dark. So cool thing there. The other thing is C Nash Knight. If you were deciding to play that card is also an Aqua. But if you like activate Parelia on your opponent and then you Izuna them into a Nash Knight and you attach your Honor Arc, as soon as they out that Nash Knight, which they're probably going to out, you have 3 Aquas in your graveyard, like automatically, and you can start your turn with activate Chaotic Elements, right? And they're going to go, oh, he's just going to add Jokul. I know what that card does. You add the Jokul, you also get like non-target pop something on the field. So try to like maximizing like the value you get off of your cards is really what we're doing while playing these cards here for the Nash Knight stuff. The other thing that I want to point out here is the minimal amount of Synchro monsters that we have in the deck. Originally, we were playing like 4 or even 5 Synchro monsters in this deck, but that's just not what we need to do. This is a canine deck. Like the Crystron should be like the secondary aspect of this deck. The main goal is to use the canine cards to do a canine combo while also accessing your Crystron cards because they are very efficient in low quantities to get to a very ridiculous end board. They also play through things really well. There's no like floodgate that really stops them. Even like Lancia, if you get Lancia, you're still getting to a very strong board. Like a lot of the time you can still get to your cluster by dumping off of like Solfador and then adding it back. A lot of the time you can just like get to like the full board. You can get to like Ripper. You can get to like Nash Knight. You can get to so much that it doesn't really matter that you were stopped in that one instance with a Lancia. Another thing that I want to talk about with this deck is Paradise Smasher. This is the deck that can Paradise Smasher the best out of all of them. It has so many 5s that are able to be summoned very easily without locking yourself. Like Solfethnir's effect to special back and pop something. A lot of time you special it back, you pop like a random inclusion you've had just laying around, then you can use the inclusion to special summon back another level 5. Then at that point, all you need is like a random Lupus that you had to extend with, or like a random Izuna, and you're able to Paradise Smasher them. And I know I talked about the Paradise Smasher is not like the most needed card, and like why it's a little bit worse here than we expected it to be, but sometimes it's just what you need to do to win the game. One major deck that I really like Paradise Smashing is against Draco Tail. I think if that deck is able to fully like get a turn like in like a fair game state, it is kind of over. The deck pushes through so much that you have to kind of like unfair them out of the game. And if you're not able to assemble like the full God board, you should try to just skip their turn because that deck is too scary to let have a turn. One final thing that I want to talk about with this deck was the side deck. As you can see here, one of the cards that's in my side deck is Foolish Barrel Goods. I really like Foolish Barrel Goods for this deck specifically because it gives you multi-utility. Being able to use Foolish Barrel Goods to sort of like dump an inclusion to just be a random extender is something that's super cool. But also Clockwork Knight. This is a card that a lot of the lists are citing just to begin with because whenever you make your Link Clockwork Knight, you can use the effect to either like get rid of your Case of Canine, get rid of your inclusion, and then search for Clockwork Knight, which is just kind of like a random floodgate. It also gives you like the random aspect of turning your own monsters into machines. So you can use your canine monsters to go into Nova. Pretty much it's only like Azuna that you can use to go into that because this is a light, but it is something cool to keep in mind. The main reason I'm bringing up this Clockwork Knight card though is because you can use Foolish Barrel Goods to send this when going first if you need a starter, because it can also add Scrap Recycler with its graveyard effect. But it also sends Black Good Laughs going first a lot of the time, because this is also going to counter like the Holy Sue or the Azuna, whatever they have that's going to interact with you on your turn 0. This is going to stop that. Even if you're playing against like a Dracotail and you drop this card, if they go activate 5 mana, I think it's a pretty safe guess to just go ahead and shoot the Blackout there and call their Arthalion. Yes, they could technically summon a Winda, and that would suck, but only a certain amount of them are really playing Shaddoll cards, and they have to open a Dark monster to fuse it and a Shaddoll monster just to get to that state. Yes, I understand that they could just fusion into the other one, and they could get a pop probably, but still, it's like cutting them off of like their main like resource loop of just adding back those cards infinitely. That's pretty much all that I really wanted to talk about with this deck profile. It's just me yapping for a couple of minutes about the deck and showing off my personal list with you guys. Regulus. I guess we can talk about Regulus really fast. The main reason you play Regulus is if you're already comboing with the Crystron cards, then whenever you have like your random rank 5 that you can make, you can go into River Stormer, and then because like you're gonna go into River Stormer in the normal combo to add Scrap Recycler, but if you already have both engines, you can use your River Stormer to just add Regulus, which is super cool. And there's a really neat interaction with Regulus. You can use Regulus to equip the Sulfafnir from the graveyard onto it, so it'll go into your spell trap zone. And you can use your Sulfador to then pop your Sulfafnir to special summon out the Sulfador. Yes, it does machine lock you at that point, but then you get the effect of the Sulfafnir, because if this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, even when it's in the spell and trap zone, it is still considered on the field. So you destroy it there, you'll get the Sulfafnir to special summon like a Tristaros from deck, and boom, you're like full comboing now, and you have a Regulus, which is super, super cool. That's pretty much it that I wanted to show you guys, though. If you guys had any other questions about this deck or like cool things that you wanted to bring up or mention to me, or even just like thoughts about things and you wanted to see my thoughts on them, leave them in the comment section down below. Besides all that, guys, I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. Thanks for watching.